Hey guys, welcome back. This is my third gameplay video, and it's been a few more years since when I last left off with you. France is consolidated considerably, and they've grown immensely powerful. They're still my allies, but I don't know if it's going to last forever, so I'm beginning to wonder if I made a mistake in making them more powerful. You see, they've even started to invade England because they're allied with Naples and Venice, who are two immensely powerful maritime naval powers. Yeah, they could really bring down some pain on me if that alliance block turned against me. I've developed economically very significantly. You can see I have more centers of production as I've increased production across Andalusia. I pushed my borders a little bit just so that I have a buffer. And I kind of scaled down my army just so that I didn't have a bloated military budget. And with maintenance off, I'm making a good bit of profit so that I can reinvest it into my economy. I was planning on improving my education because I really fell behind in every tech but military tech for quite some time because I was focusing so heavily on survival. And I really allowed my education to slip, and I only had one university for a while. So I went ahead and I invested a lot more in building universities so that I have a good foundation for education spending. And universities are more potent in locations that have a lot of upper classes. And previously, I think only like 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 of my upper classes had access to a university, but now everyone does, plus some. And so all of my education spending is multiplied by 2.35. And you can see now, even though the church is paying into the national endowment every year, and I'm really not offering much, you can see education is still growing quite a bit. I was gonna save up money to spend on education when the Hafsids declared war on Fez, and you can see it shouldn't technically be a super hard war. They could probably win it on their own, but I expected this to eventually happen, and so for that reason I fabricated claims on some key cities, port cities on the coast. You can see I've got a claim on Tangiers. I had one on Ceuta, but it expired. I'll probably try and grab that as well. And I have one on Oran. And the idea is I'm going to capture those key ports, one of which is the center of trade, actually. And then I'm going to build up those cities and use them to drive trade from Africa, the same way that Granada kind of tried to historically in Ceuta, but ultimately failed. And I don't think I want to conquer much of mainland Fez because I don't want to be bogged down with a lot of education I have to maintain and lots of rebellions I have to put down. At least as far as I can tell, in 2.0, it's not as beneficial to spam an empire, and it's really more beneficial in many cases at least to be more discreet about what you conquer, because if you conquer a whole lot without really building up core provinces to sustain an empire, then you could be in a situation where it all comes crumbling down very quickly. Obviously it's not as big a problem if you use save scum, but I'm basically an Iron Man mode type of person, so I play a bit more conservatively. So anyway, raised an army. I raised my maintenance on my army. My tradition isn't that great. I'm going to try and get my greater nobles to give me a general of merit. Oh my god, that's amazing. Thanks, guys. That's probably all I really need. I'm going to bring my new handy-dandy fleet home, and I'm going to get an admiral for that fleet. It doesn't need to be very good. Okay. then I don't really need to go to my estates for war support, but I might as well. Looks like they have 1 infantry, 1 cavalry for me. My loyalty's so good with them that I might as well ask for some support. Do I want full support? Sure, why not? As an aside, by the way, estates are a long way from being done. You'll notice that at the current time they're quite a bit mechanical. Oops, recorder. They're quite a bit mechanical, and it's mainly, or rather, transactional. And that's because the many events that will exist for estates currently aren't in the game. So estates will be regularly coming to you with requests and demands, and they will try to push their interests and agenda. They have monarch points too that they use on you or with you if they like you. And when they like you, they'll come to you with events that are either really, really helpful. They'll invest in education, they'll invest in your cities or in your farm estates and things like that. But there's also a chance that because they're so comfy with you, they'll come asking for privileges while offering nothing substantial in return. And so there's an upside and downside to having really good relations. Whereas when you have really bad relations with them, they'll constantly be hurling bad events at you, but then you'll have a lot more opportunities to curtail their privileges, to demote greater nobles, to revoke privileges, things like that. But that's all in the future at the moment. Right now I'm just training the AI to be able to use all of the many interactions properly. And then I'll move on to events then. So right now it's a bit transactional. Let's see. My war exhaustion already goes down by a bit, so I don't think I'm going to demand much from the bourgeoisie. The money would be nice. Let's see. Do I really need it, though? Eventually, when the bourgeoisie and other estates build up way more ducats than they need, they'll initiate significant building projects or things like that, but that's not yet in the game. So I might as well ask for some financial aid, and then I'll give them some privileges to mollify them. Okay. How much do I want to loot? So, if I loot a lot from Fez, then I'll be hurting the trade value that Fez is generating. So I'm not sure how much I want to loot. I'm just gonna go with free looting. Alright, so load up here. And get my lesser and greater noble levies going. And find a good spot to land that isn't too treacherous. Actually, I want the port city, so I might as well march over there. Actually, let me see if there's anything else I want to request. Organized noble war councils, handy, extra leader shock, yearly army tradition decay. I'll go for that. I'll also honor them to keep them at bay, keep them in good favor, just in case I need anything else from them. They're not going to resist me. They had a peasant war sweep through the country and really bruise them up pretty bad. Their tech is pretty low too. I'm not terribly concerned about this war being difficult. The Hafsids are probably going to roll over them pretty quickly. I will probably target locations that have a lot of loot available. Actually, let's find those right now. Obviously, Fez is quite wealthy. Very, very built out. A little sad about even damaging the city. But the thing is if I want to be able to build up the port cities fairly strongly, I need to level most of the cities that are in North Africa, because Fez is eating all the food from the surrounding area. And if I want food to be able to go to the port cities that I plan on capturing, I need to basically minimize the influence and size of the cities of Fez. And not just that, but I want to weaken Fez so I can hold on to those provinces relatively easily without much trouble. I don't want them to be trying to retake the port cities constantly. Going ahead with my sieges. Oh, actually, they don't even have forts here. This is gonna be easy. It's a straight march to Fez. See what's worth. I'm not gonna bother capturing anything that doesn't have any wealth in it, because all I'd really be doing is hurting the amount of trade value that comes out. Darn, looks like the Hafsids already went to Tlemcen, which was a nice little place to potentially loot. Ooh, okay, we'll go to Meknes. Not sure if I'm gonna go for anything south of the Atlas Mountains. We'll see. I kind of just want to end this as soon as possible and take my gains. I probably need to go to Iran as fast as I can, though. Yeah, so the idea is, now that I have a pretty prosperous homeland, I want to try to get as many natural ports and estuary cities throughout the Mediterranean as I can, and then try to steer as much trade as I can back to my home node. And with a built-up city, it's not terribly hard if I get some of those strategic ports. I doubt I'm going to get anything out of Naples with one port or so, but relatively unurbanized locations can be pretty easily. No, okay, good. That's not the right one for Iran. So they have. No, that's not going to be enough. So you can see Oran is 30,000 people in the city. There's a medieval castle that they're still left over somehow, and then city fortifications, which was constructed by the city. City fortifications the AI decides to build them either when the city gets relatively big or when it's been attacked numerous times and sacked. So it'll respond to that damage by attempting to mitigate it in the future by building fortifications. Ooh, now these are perfectly sackable. To leave that blockade in place. I hope I didn't hurt cities too badly. Nah, I guess they're doing okay. Fez, I do wanna hurt. No thanks. Nice. I'm curious how much loot I brought in from Fez. Pretty good. Probably about 500 ducats just from one city. And you can see, pretty significant damage was done. You know, when you take mercenary ideas, it tends to crank up your willingness to thrash. I guess. Wow, I'm getting lucky. Go for garb too. What? This looks like this event needs some work. I didn't write it. I think it was somebody else. How much wealth does Iran have? Not bad. We'll probably lose its center of trade status, unfortunately, until I build it up again. Anything else juicy? Ooh. Oh, darn. I can't get past. Well, I won't be too greedy. Or will I? These ships don't have to. It's relatively undefended, so I might as well. And the Hafsids are probably going to claim these provinces. And I don't technically want the Hafsids to be too strong in case they get too big for their britches. Eventually I'm going to be working on pirate estates. And a lot of those pirate estates will settle in these little port-type cities and launch raids throughout the Mediterranean. Of course, some Europeans will get some as well, because, like for instance, in St. Malo, there were some famous French privateers that operated out of there. But that's for a later date. I'm going to be working on a raiding mechanic as well later, largely for the various Muslim countries, especially the Ottomans, who had a habit of raiding the crap out of their opponents until they were so weak they figured, well, we might as well just conquer them. So that'll be fun when we get around to that. Let me place elf to loot. Not really. Unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck here. Alright, what else we got? Do I really want to go into the hills and siege down a fort? I don't think so. Let's see. This could be worth it. You know, I want to damage these centers of trade so that it'll be a lot easier for my port cities to reclaim, or rather to claim those centers of trade themselves. especially in Tangiers and Suera. Oh my god, finish the siege. What's my loot pool looking like? Oh, nice. I could walk out of this with actually somewhat of a profit. You know, all through this era of history, it was not uncommon at all for a lot of warfare to be motivated by booty. Why can't I? There. Oh, yeah. Even Napoleon's army in a lot of the French Revolution was financed by a lot of the loot that was brought home from Italy and Netherlands. I don't want this war to last too long, though. Otherwise, I'm just scraping the bottom of the barrel. I may make a separate piece, even though it would anger the half-citizens a little bit, just because I would like to get what I want and not just have to rely on them hopefully giving me what I want. Which, I mean, the AI is actually, the vanilla AI has gotten a lot better about giving out goodies based on your war score, but I don't want to take that chance. Because I spend a lot of time on modding and not necessarily a lot of time playing the game, because there's only so much time in the day for someone like me. I'm not always 100% up on the AI's disposition at any given moment. So yeah, once we finish capping Terra we'll go ahead and peace out. Really? Oh, whatever. I'll take the prestige hit. I want what I want. What do I want anything else? What trade node is this in? Oh, I've loved a trade node in Tunisia, or trade port in Tunisia, but that's not going to happen. I don't know if I want Al Jazeera or not. I guess maybe. Problem is I have to build them all out to make them effective. I have to build a level 1 port so that it can receive runners so that I have decent CE. So I guess so. Let's see what else I can get. Could also release Zeus just to weaken them so they're not thinking about stomping me later. I wonder if there's any ports worth it along the coast. Like, one thing I want to avoid is sucking in a lot of rural population, because what it ends up doing is it ends up generating more upper classes I have to educate and spend money on, and I want to try and keep my empire lean and rich. Yeah, so let's... I got a lot of leftover war score, don't I? Zeus. And yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, good. No stability hits. And now whatever, screw you guys. I'll loot you again later if you decide to declare war on me. Just gonna leave Zeus down here as a little distraction for Fez if they get any funny ideas. So, alright, so I got all this money now to work with. So now I can go ahead and do what I wanted to do with education, right? My stability looks pretty good. Education. How much money do I want to give to education? So let's pump in 500 ducats. And another 500 ducats. And in a year, we'll be able to see how much it went up, which should be pretty significant. Remember, every year, the endowment goes down by 5%, so the increases I'll end up getting aren't going to be permanent. They'll decline as well. And education level deteriorates as well if you fall behind on education. So we'll see what that does. Guess all my levies got taken back. Make sure my burgers aren't too angry. Oh, we're good. Also, I'm contemplating revoking a privilege. It could cost me some stability. I'll go for it. See, so I revoked a privilege that I'd actually recently given them. Yeah, so 50% chance. They generally accept my reforms. So it could have gotten much worse. They could have gotten super duper pissed off. You can lose a lot of stability by revoking privileges in this way. So it can be pretty risky. You only want to do it when you have positive stability. And I lost stability anyway. So then we'll check on my education, and then I'll call it for a little bit and come back when something interesting happens. Let's see, has the education census happened yet? No, it hasn't. Yeah. Looks like I lost my castle in Oran. Still got city fortifications though. The damage dealt wasn't too bad. Bourgeoisie are present there. Yeah, it's mostly bourgeoisie. Now what I need to do is set these guys on patrol. Whoops. And I'm going to protect trade in the Maghreb, in the Mikrib. I should pull some more from my enemies up here. I'll probably do that once I build out my trade ports here. That way I won't need them as much. Port intrigue. Well, let's see. It depends on who's trying to kill me here. Well, you're pretty good. I don't want you to die. But you died. Great. So I guess I shouldn't have revoked that privilege after all. Well, sometimes good things can happen. Let me check my stability. Okay, so I'm about to get back to 0 at least. Once crises get into the game, stability is going to be a lot more dangerous. Estates are as well. What will happen is an estate will demand something of you. And in some cases, the cost might just be too high. And if you refuse them, there's a chance you could get a crisis. And in most cases, a crisis isn't necessarily that bad. You lose the stability, and the estate begins to rabble-rouse. But then each crisis has a chance to deepen and cause more stability loss and worse confusion and chaos. And it can even boil over into a civil war in some cases. It can come on you quite suddenly. And so it can be dangerous to go up against your estates, and they can strike you at pretty bad times. And if you're a big empire, it tends to be even worse. Like when you're really compact and you have low autonomy in all your provinces, it's not that big of a deal because, only 42.8% of your income in the province is going to the estate, right? In the worst case scenario. Whereas if you have this massive sprawling empire that has 70-80% autonomy in a lot of the provinces, you have these really powerful estates who, if they decide to throw a crisis, they will raise their levies against you. They will use their monarch points against you to generate chaos or try to get you overthrown or just generally cause trouble. So it'll be a lot more interesting, that aspect of the game, later. For now, it's a bit, like I said, transactional and straightforward. Who's rebelling and where? That's fine. I'll put him down. Okay. So, education. Woo! Okay, so that massive chunk of money I spent is increasing education dramatically. Because now, I have tons and tons of universities as well, so my money is going a lot further. Important thing to note, though, is that each 10 points you get in education then increases the additional cost of the next 10 points. So there's more and more resistance as you go higher and higher. So if you want 70, 80, 90% education, you need to have a pretty advanced society, or you need to be a poor society that's just spending every single ducat you have on education. So it's not as easy as it looks to get high education, although there is some tuning necessary. Anyway, I'll stop it now, for now, and then we'll pick it up again. It's 1547 now, and I'm generally in a good position as far as warfare is concerned. Fez is pretty much sunk, and the Hafsids are eating him, and I have a fairly strong alliance with the Hafsids, so I'm good there. I did have a plague roll through, and you can see fair is fair. I lost my continent city modifier to Paris because I was on the receiving end of plague this time, and so Paris now has surpassed me and taken the title again. But other than that, I'm doing pretty well, just recovering from the plague, and you can see my economy is doing well because now the wealth of my various provinces are now being converted into new infrastructure. And that's what happens when you build up enough wealth over time, is that it'll actually spill over into construction. You can see here that Malacca is building a warehouse. Seville built, what did they build? I think they built a warehouse as well. And Granada actually ended up building a very powerful merchant building. And I've got a few more centers, which will eventually they'll build up enough production scale and then turn these goods purple, and I'll get to choose more luxury goods. And I'll be building up my port cities over time to drive trade out of North Africa. I also sacked Fez pretty hard, so it's a lot smaller now, and so it should allow a lot of the would-be urban population to end up in my port cities instead. Education-wise, all those universities and that burst of income paid off. Growth is somewhat leveled off, but you can see my education level is substantially better now. my development is better of my society at large. So I have better bonuses. I have a lot of urban goods, and let's see, where's my education? I need new icons. I'm spending 20 ducats annually on education, which doesn't count the amount of money I'm spending on universities. Yeah, education high. So I'm finally catching up in tech, and I'll probably be the first one with colonialism too as it spreads. There are some concerns in the sense that I lost my alliance with Leon. That was kind of my fault. I signed a separate peace because I really wanted to make sure that I got the New World's the New World Center, whatever you call it. Basically, the institution of the New World Institution ended up in the Vale de Cerro. Sorry for butchering the name. And so I wanted it for my own, and it ended up ruining trust with Leon, and they canceled the alliance. And so now I have a situation where Aragon is allied with Portugal, Leon, and France. And if I lose my alliance with France, I could have a serious problem on my hands, because just me and the Hafsids would not be enough to beat, I think, Portugal, Leon, Aragon, and France. Because France, as you can see, is beastlier than ever. They have not only a bigger income than me and a larger standing army, but they also have extremely powerful greater nobles. And even their lesser nobles have a pretty formidable military. So if they attacked, if Aragon attacked me, France alone would be enough to stomp me into the ground. So I may have to start thinking about building up some forts. Otherwise, all of this wonderful economic growth I've experienced and wealth could just be sucked away. So that's it for now. I'll start up the video again if anything interesting happens. I'll see you then. It's 1564. I kind of got vortexed into a bunch of France's wars. Initially, I was going to try to pull Aragon into a war with Portugal and then force France into the war, thereby canceling the alliance with Aragon. But France beat me to the punch, and now they decided they're going to invade London and capture London. They used the opportunity to vassalize Portugal and take Lisbon. And then I'm gonna rampage through England and kind of loot everything. Since it's a long way from Iberia, I don't have to worry about hurting the trade value that would otherwise get here. So I'm just gonna use the opportunity to ravage the countryside and improve my military tradition. France, if they end up breaking their alliance with me, I could be in serious trouble. So, I'm in a good position to start swallowing up more land. If my aggressive expansion bothers them too much, then it could be a serious problem for me. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and get the greater nobles to favor a general of merit. That's pretty nice. Now I'm gonna go ahead and loot everything. Looks like England's coming to hit Scotland on their side, but looks like they're coming back now that we've invaded England. Yeah, as you can see, England didn't exactly build that many forts because they didn't really need to. Yeah, France is pretty scary because they not only have lots and lots of troops, but they also have just as much just as much tech and ideas, so I don't know how to do in a war, and I haven't really built many forts like I should. I've got the money, I guess I might as well. Build some... why not? That's desirable. I don't mind seeing Aragon get stumped. As you can see, I'm fabricated a bunch of claims in Valencia. I've made them an accepted culture. I've been waiting to take everything here, but it's a matter of, I think I'm gonna attack Leon and then try to pull Aragon into the war. They every time I attack somewhere, Aragon refuses to join the war, and of course if I attack Aragon directly, then they pull in France, and I obviously can't fight France. Well, maybe I can, but it's not a good idea. Really? Well, I want him, so... Actually, I should be blockading over here. Right after... Yeah, my tradition is pretty high now, which is nice. My loot, what is my loot anyway? It's gotta be pretty good. It's okay. Oh, what a pain. Is Kent even worth it? No, it's not. Just stop England real quick. Oh, come back. Whatever. I figured I'd just milk my bourgeoisie. London's been subject to a lot of invasions, so it's England's, yeah, they're not doing so hot. Good, and hold them still, Aragon. What the? Okay. Shouldn't take much longer. The loot should be worth it. As you can see with France, I've basically maxed out my trust. But if my aggressive expansion gets too high, then it may not matter. Did they peace out? I guess they did. Alright. Let's go home. Really? that's it. Yeah, I guess I didn't bring too much home. Not worth losing this ability over 254 ducats. Anyway, so that's the war. I'll come back as soon as something interesting happens. Right now we're getting to a point in the game where gameplay mechanics are starting to break down because we haven't really gotten that far in balancing to this point. One of the big issues is institutions just aren't spreading properly or balanced properly. So I figure I got maybe 30 more years in the game, so maybe we'll get an exciting climax, maybe not, but I'll let you know. I'd at least like to get largest continental city, at the very least. So looks like Paris is still a bit ahead of me. Anyway, see you in a bit. Okay, so here's a little update so far. So my expansion of urban industries is starting to show, and you can see that the linen industry in Malak is now specializing into some other type of industry, and depending on what I pick, the different type of good, it'll give me a different type of bonus based on how much I produce. And paper gives like some idea bonuses and things like that. Leather gives some production bonuses. Naval supply gives naval bonuses. And because I want to be able to keep up with my monarch points and have an advantage in tech and ideas, I'm going to go ahead and go for paper. And so there, so now I'm producing paper. I don't think I'm producing enough to get any bonuses from it, but let me see. Yeah, luxury cloth, abundant silk. But yeah, I need more of it before I get any kind of bonus. The issue I'm having right now is I basically, to make things more interesting and because I'm curious what'll happen, I've decided to rapidly expand, and I'm going to start giving numerous provinces to my vassal. I'm going to attempt to seize more provinces from Aragon, maybe some more from Castile in a bit. It's a bit challenging because you end up with quite a few revolts the more you take, and so we'll see what happens. It's supposed to be a bit harder to expand in game now in M&T 2.0 because of these sort of organic limitations. So I'll put that to the test now and see what ends up happening. I'll get back to you guys in a bit.